So let us start. Om Sada
Om
Shiva
Sadaशिवसमारम्भां
Shankaracharya
Shankaracharya-madhyamam
Asmadacharya Paryantam
Asmadacharya-paryantam
Vande Guru
Vande Guru
Paramparam.
Paramparam.
Om Sahana
Om Sahana
Bhavatu
Bhavatu
Sahana
Sahana
Bhunaktu Saha
Bhunaktu
Viryam
Saha Viryam
Karvavahai
Karvavahai
Tejasvinavadhitamastuma
Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma
Vidvishavahai.
Vidvishavahai.
Om
Om
Shanti
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 Shanti.
Shanti.
Om Tat Sat. Good morning, everybody, again.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So we had completed the 18th verse, right, in the third chapter. So we'll chant the 19th verse. So please unmute yourself. Shri Bhagavanuvacha
Shri Bhagavanuvacha
Tasmad Sakta Satatam
Tasmad Sakta Satatam
Karyam Karma Samachara
Karyam Karma Samachara
Asukto Yacharan Karma
Asakto Yacharan Karma
Paramapnoti Purushaha.
Paramapnoti Purushaha.
Okay, so I'll just mute all of y'all. And we will look at the words now. Tasmad asakta is tasmat plus asakta. Tasmat with the halant below the tasmat asakta. Then satatam karyam karma samachara. Then asaktahi. So the hyacharan has to be broken into hi acharan plus karma. So hyacharan karma is hi acharan karma, which means asaktaha hi acharan karma param apnoti purushaha. Tasmat. Therefore, asaktaha. Okay, let me give you the anvaya first. Tasmat asaktaha karyam karma satatam samachara, comma, asaktahi purushaha karma acharan param apnoti. And you look at the sentences. Tasmat, therefore, satatam samachara karma. Satatam is always, samachara is perform, or some achara. Achara is to perform, some is well. So some achara, perform well. Karma, all the actions. And karyam generally means product. So here it means that which is to be done. Karma, which is to be done, is called karyam. So tasmat satatam samachara karma karyam. Always perform those actions which are to be done. You perform them well. And how? Asaktaha, without attachment. Why? He, because he is here, because by performing karma, acharan karma, by performing karma asaktaha, by performing karma without attachment, purushaha apnoti paramam, the person attains the highest. Apnoti, attains, highest is paramam. So this word tasmat is very important here. Tasmat means therefore. And Krishna doesn't say what that therefore means. Therefore means wherefore. Why is Krishna saying therefore, Arjuna? So Shankara says, you can take it as, because Arjuna, you are not yet ready for Jnana Yoga. So Tasmat means, hey Arjuna, because you are not ready for Jnana Yoga, because you have not got Chitta Shuddhi, because you have not got Jnana Yogyata, because you have not got Sadhana Chatusha Sampanna. You are not Sadhana Chatusha Sampanna. Therefore, what should you do? Asakta karyam karma satatam samachara. So, satatam karyam karma. May you take to nitya karma. So we saw that Nitya Karma in earlier verse number 8, Niyatam Karma. So the Niyatam Karma is, it doesn't mean Nitya, it doesn't mean daily. So Nitya Karma, one has to understand, doesn't mean daily karma, it means compulsory karma, right? And we discussed earlier that the omission of that which is compulsory, in the compulsory here means mandated by the Veda, mandated by the Karma Kanda. Those karmas, if you omit, there is a particular type of papam, a particular type of sin is produced. What is the name of that papam? Pratyavaya Paya. Right. And we had a discussion on Pratyavaya Papam where we said that it is not a producer, it's a revealer. So all those discussions should be constantly kept in mind when we talk about this. And therefore, what will happen if you do your karma without attachment? Asakto hyacharan karma, if you do your karma without attachment, param apnoti purushaha. So param apnoti purushaha means that purushaha apnoti paramam is gets moksha, gets emotional independence, fullness, purnatvam is God. So we have to learn to think of moksha not as something mysterious, but in terms of completeness, in terms of purnatvam. Because if you look back at your lives, at times when you have had internal conflict, internal struggle, if you analyze properly, objectively, you will find that always the struggle has been to be free of dependence on some subject, some person. So the struggle is always for inner independence, for inner emotional independence. Physically, of course, the body can never be independent. It's dependent on food, it's dependent on clothes, it's dependent for shelter. So the body can never be independent. But we will find that our struggle has always been for emotional independence. We don't want to be dependent upon somebody for our happiness, and that is emotional independence. It requires a certain amount of thought, a certain amount of discrimination to be able to accept this. Because normally you are conditioned to believe that you can be happy only in the presence of another person, and that if that other person is not there in your life, then you're going to be unhappy. So that conditioning Vedanta is trying to break. Our struggle is only for inner independence. And Krishna is saying that independence is possible how? Only through self-discovery, only through realizing that all that strength, all that emotional strength is within me only. I don't need to look outside. And that's jnanam. This kind of a discovery requires jnanam, requires self-jnanam, atma-jnanam. Atma-jnanam requires what? Mental purity. Mental purity means what? Chitta-shuddhi. Chitta-shuddhi means what? Freedom from raga and dvesha. Freedom from likes and dislikes. So this mental impurity which we have, it is the delusion. It is the mistaken idea that other people are the cause of my happiness or unhappiness. Or if you want to use a broader term, that the jagat, the world is the cause of my happiness or unhappiness. That is the impurity, the mental delusion. And as long as I or you go along with this thought and consider that the world is the cause of my happiness or unhappiness, what will I do? Because I have decided that the cause is outside me. The world is the cause. So all my life, I will try to adjust the world. All my activities will be focused on adjusting the world, making it improve, so that that world conforms with my idea of how it should. You see what I'm saying? When I consider that the world is the cause of my happiness or more likely of my unhappiness, then I want that world to change. My focus is on the world, so I don't look at myself. And therefore, I will try to change the world, adjust the world, modify the world. And in that, all of us know that we fail miserably. And as long as you keep focusing on the world, you will never achieve happiness. So only when I understand that the source of happiness, and for that matter, the source of unhappiness also is I, right? I alone am the source of happiness. I alone am the source of sorrow also. And how is that possible that I am both the source of sorrow and happiness? So, if I understand my true nature, then I am the source of happiness. If I do not understand my true nature, then I am the source of unhappiness. So, the misunderstood I is the source of happiness. The properly understood I is the source of happiness. Misunderstood I, source of unhappiness. Properly understood I, source of happiness. So in Sanskrit, Ajnata aham dukha hetu. The misunderstood I is the reason for dukham, for unhappiness. Jnata aham, the properly understood I, is sukha hetu, is the source of happiness. And therefore, I should very clearly know that as long as I do not know my true nature, I am the very source of sorrow. And the moment I study the Shastram and understand my true nature, that very same I becomes the source of happiness. So this idea is misunderstood I, blaming everything on the external world. That is the inner impurity. And that will only go through Karma Yoga. It cannot go through Jnanam. Without that impurity having gone, that Jnanam cannot give us any benefit also. Therefore, Krishna is saying, the Tasmat. That whole Tasmat means because, Arjuna, your mind is still impure. You have not got Chitta Shuddhi. Therefore, follow Karma Yoga, purify the mind. Come to Jnana Yoga, follow Jnana Yoga, discover yourself to be independent, and then be free. So this is the path prescribed to us by the Veda. And therefore it says, Tasmat Karya Karma Samachara. Take to Karma Yoga by following your duties. What is Karyam Karma over here? Whatever is expected of you in your particular setup. So whichever setup, all of us are in a particular setup. We have got a certain set of parents, certain set of relatives, certain job we may be having, certain duties we may be having. All this is the environment, the setup. So he's saying, hey Arjuna, don't try to run away from your responsibility. You should do Karya Karma Samachara. You should do that same job which you are supposed to be doing. How should you do it is the important point. So he says Asaktaha. Asaktaha means without attachment. Without attachment to what? To the job? No. Without attachment to the future. Without anxiety. Without always projecting what will happen tomorrow morning if I don't do this job properly. So the whole time if your mind is in the future, the problem is that you are missing the present. And happiness is there only in the present. So he says, hey Arjuna, learn to focus your mind today on the war. Don't worry about whether Bhishma will die tomorrow morning, he will die, or Dronacharya will die tomorrow morning, who will kill them. Don't worry about all those things. We live in the present. Whatever you have to do today, do it wholeheartedly. Satatam. You have to continue to do this. Continuously, you have to engage in the activity because every moment is the present moment only. And when you continuously are in the present, then your mind is focused. Therefore, asakto hyacharan karma, do what you have to do with this asakta attitude, the healthy attitude. And if that happens, paramapnoti purushaha. So here param means moksha, purusha is a karma yogi. So he says that discriminative karma yogi will ultimately attain moksha. Now, when again these kind of statements in the scriptures have to be carefully interpreted. You can interpret this to mean that Krishna is saying, hey Arjuna, you do your karma without attachment and you will get moksha. But that is not what is intended. So you have to supply over here the rest of what all we have studied so far. So this intelligent usage of your time as a karma yogi, what will it give you? It will give you Chitta Shuddhi. mental purification. After that mental purification, you enter Jnana Yoga, you do Shravanam, you do Mananam, you do Nididhyasanam, and therefore you will be free. Therefore, we will get moksha. So that is what is intended. And therefore, the advice is, hey Arjuna, take the bow and start to fight. Okay. Now, what is this Karma Yoga? We have discussed earlier also. The Karma Yogi takes less from the world and gives more. A Karma Yoga is a life of contribution. That contribution need not be, again, all this we have discussed. I am just reminding myself actually. All this need not be in the form of, the contribution need not be in the form of money alone. It can be in the form of knowledge. It can be in the form of your energy, your time. It can be in the form of giving, of compassion, even a few good, kind words. If you give, compassionate words to people who need them, that is also Karma Yoga contribution only. And so, as we have seen, Karma Yoga can be looked at from different viewpoints. So one is, you can take Karma Yoga as a commandment of Ishvara, Agnya. Okay, so Vidhi. Because there is Vidhi, there is the commandment to do karma in scriptures. So that's Vidhi. So also called Vihita Karma, mandated karma by this Shastra. So you can take Karma Yoga as a Vidhi, as a commandment of the Lord. That's one way. You can also take Karma Yoga, as we discussed in great detail, as a worship of the Lord. Ishvara Arpana Bhava and Ishvara Prasada Bhava, you can take that. You can take Karma Yoga as an expression of gratitude. So that's called Yajnaha. You can take Karma Yoga as sadhana for Chitta Shuddhi, as a means of purification, preparing myself for Atma Jnana. That Karma Yoga can become Chitta Shodhakam, purifier. And you can look at Karma Yoga, we also saw that, as the means of maintaining the harmony of the universe. So harmony within the individual, harmony at the level of the family, community, society, nation, and ultimately ecologically at the environmental level also. That level you can call Karma Yoga as Dharma also. Krishna is saying you can look at it anyway, Arjuna. Look at it as my commandment. Look at it as Yajna. Look at it as Chitta Shodhakam. Look at it as environmental protection. Whatever way you look at it, there is only one thing I have to say to you, Arjuna. Whichever way you look at it, you have no choice but to do Karma Yoga. Okay, so that is verse number 19. And we look at verse number 20 now. So please unmute yourself, we'll chant. Karmannaiva hi samsiddhim
कर्मण्यैव हि संसिद्धिम्
आस्थिता जनकादयः
आस्थिता जनकादयः
लोकसंग्रहमेवापि
लोकसङ्ग्रहमेवापि
सम्पश्यन् कर्तुम् अर्हसि.
सम्पश्यन् कर्तुम् अर्हसि.
Okay. So we look at the grammar portion again. Karmannaiva, so karmana eva hi samsiddhim asthitaha janakadayaha loka sangraham eva api. So loka sangraham eva api sampasyan kartum arhasi. And you can put the Anvaya. I'll give the Anvaya in simple sentences. So, Karmana eva, by action alone, indeed, he here is indeed, Karmana eva he, by action alone did, Janaka King Janaka and the others. So, Janaka plus Adi is Janaka Adayaha. The Adayaha indicates that is plural. So, Janaka Adayaha, Janaka and the others. Asthitaha samsiddhim. Astitaha means they gained, they got what? Liberation. Samsiddhim. Purification. The moksha they got. So karmana hi eva janakadaya astita samsiddhim. Indeed, by action alone did Janaka and the others get liberation. Okay, again, the sentences can be very easily misinterpreted. So I would suggest that whatever we have discussed in the last verse, you should remember. Whenever they talk about moksha through karma, wherever scriptures talk about moksha directly through karma, it is indicating that karma will give you chitta shuddhi. Chitta shuddhi will bring you to jnanam. You will get jnanam. You will do shravanam, mananam, and nididhyasanam, and then you will get moksha. So indirectly only, karma can become a tool of moksha only indirectly. That we must always remember. So janakadaya karmana eva hi samsiddhim astitaha. First sentence. Second one is loka sangraham api sampashyan eva kartum arhasi. So api also. Sampashyan eva, seeing that. Sampashyan means understanding, seeing that. Loka sangraham means seeing the possibility of protecting the people always. Kartum arhasi, so that you is not there, tvam is not there, that has to be supplied over here. So you have to say that sampashyan eva api loka sangraham, with the possibility of protecting the people or doing good to the people. Kartum arhasi, you should perform karma. So he says, in short, hey Arjuna, doing karma alone, people like Janaka and the others have got moksha, and you should also do karma. Therefore, you should also do karma, considering the possibility that it is for the protection of the people. Okay. So here a very important question is being addressed. It's a very common misinterpretation in our society, even among Nyanis, that moksha is possible only for a sannyasi. In fact, if you read Shankara Bhashyam without a proper commentary, Shankara Bhashyam itself is a commentary, of course, but you have Tikakaras who have commented, Anandagiri and all have commented upon Shankara Bhashyam also. So the problem with Shankara is that Shankara, for Shankara, when you say human being, it means sannyasi. So his bhashyams are very heavily focused on sannyasa as a means of getting moksha. And it's possible to extract a meaning from the bhashyam that unless you have sannyasa, you will not get moksha. Though occasionally, especially in this commentary on this mantra, Shankara, agrees that yes, it is possible for a grihastha also to get moksha. So the question here is moksha possible for a householder, for a grihastha, for one who has a family, who is involved in the world, which most of us are? And Krishna says yes. Even for a grihastha, while remaining in grihastha ashram, he can follow these disciplines, he can follow spirituality and get moksha. And if you look at it, every ashrama, so whenever we say ashrama, remember there are 4: brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi. So every ashrama has got the pros and cons, plus points and minus points. Take for example sannyas ashrama. Sannyas ashrama has the disadvantage that it is a one-way ticket. You go to sannyasa ashrama, there is no return to grihastha at all. Positive side is what? There are no responsibilities there. There is full-time focus. Full-time focus can be possible on your shravanam, maranam, nididhyasanam, all these sadhanas. Even karma yoga you can do in sannyasa ashrama if you're not ready for knowledge. The problem is that most people, they need to fulfill certain amount of desires before they can understand that desired fulfillment by itself leads nowhere. So a mind which has not understood that purely by fulfilling desires, I will be happy all the time. Because desires are, one desire is over, another one comes. Second desire, the third one comes. In fact, how long are you happy? Once you fulfill one desire, you are happy for how long? Until the next desire comes along. So that continuous cycle, fulfilling one desire, being happy for some time, another desire coming, running around to fulfill that desire, being happy for some time, a third desire coming. This particular activity is only possible for a grahastha because he has so many avenues where he can polish himself. And sooner or later, when he understands that this kind of running after fulfilling desires is not going to give me any permanent happiness, then only he looks at Vedanta. Then only his mind is been what you call prepared. Chitta Shuddhi has come. But so if you enter sannyas ashrama before that happens, your mind is unprepared, and therefore it can be very disastrous for your mind. On the other hand, grahasthas are in a very advantageous position. Why? There is relative security, there is comfort. The disadvantage is what? There are so many demands on your time that you have to be very, very focused to be able to spare time on a regular basis for Vedantic study or for any sadhana at all. In fact, in our tradition, it's not called a graham. It's not called house, right? It's called grahastha ashrama, which means that Shastram considers, the scriptures consider that it is possible to convert your house into an ashram. That is the very meaning of the term grahastha ashram. Unfortunately, in today's world, it is also possible to convert an ashram into a house. But generally, if you look at the general cause, as we saw in Tattva, a general samanya karanam of a ashram and a house and your home, they are the same. Both are made of bricks and cement. Ashrama also is made of bricks and cement. Your house is also made of bricks and cement. Right? Especially some modern ashramas, because some of the modern ashramas, they are not even in the traditional ashrama fashion, which spread over all of land. They are buildings only. So any ashrama and any house, what is the difference? Both are made of brick and mortar. Both have modern facilities. In your house, TV is there, internet is there. In your ashrama, TV is there, internet is there. Your house computer is there. Today's ashramas all about computers. So what is the difference between ashrama and house? So it is the attachment that makes the difference. And therefore, Shastram says, Nivrittasya graham tapovanam. Nivrittasya means devoid. Nivritti is basically withdrawal. So you have to understand is withdrawal from attachment, that where attachment is missing, and there what happens? Graham tapovanam. The house, the graham, becomes the tapovanam, becomes the tapovan. The ashrama it becomes. If attachment is there, any building is a house. If dispassion and detachment are there, any house is nothing but an ashrama. And the difference between the house and the ashrama is not an external difference. That difference resides in the hearts of the people who occupy that house or the ashrama. So here Krishna is saying here that it is possible for grahasthas to remain in the house in grahastha ashrama and still get moksha. And therefore he gives the example of Janaka Maharaja. He says even rulers who have so much of duties, responsible position, he has lots of duties on a daily basis, even they can remain in the ashrama and get moksha. And so Krishna gives the example of Janaka Maharaja, who was a great grihastha, responsible grihastha. He remained in Karuma Yoga, purified his mind, acquired the knowledge, and got moksha. And therefore, the teaching is, hey Arjuna, don't try to run away from this battlefield. You stay in grihastha ashrama and you get your knowledge and you get moksha. Therefore, he says Janakadayaha, people like Janaka. And you can add, there are other people in the scriptures, Ajatashatru, Ashwapati, all these people are there. who have got moksha while remaining in grihastha. What do they do? Janakadayaha saddhim samsiddhim asthitaha. They have all got moksha while remaining in grihastha. What did they do while they were in grihastha? Karmani eva. They did karma only. Remaining in a life of duties and responsibilities, doing karma, all the karma which was necessary in the course of their grihastha role, these people got Chitta Shuddhi and they got moksha also. Therefore, Arjuna, if it was possible for them, why should you run away? Why should you try to go to Rishikesh and become a sannyasi? So follow the dharma yuddha, follow this dharma of the battle. Do it with the attitude of Ishvara Arpana Bhava, Ishvara Prasada Bhava. Purify the mind, continue in Grihastha, gain self-knowledge, and be a Grihastha Jnani. So, in the 4th chapter, Krishna will also talk about Grihastha Jnanis. So here, this verse has to be carefully marked out, because in this verse, the Karmanaiva hi samsiddhim asta janakadaya, that one line, the first line of the verse, it marks the conclusion of the Karma Yoga topic, which was all so far the topic was Karma Yoga from the first verse onwards. So here the first line of the 20th verse marks the conclusion of the Karma Yoga topic. From the second line, Krishna is changing into another topic, right? Now, what did Krishna say in verses 17 and 18? That Karma Yoga is important for Chitta Shuddhi. And Chitta Shuddhi is important for Jnanam. And once you get Jnanam, you become a Jivan Mukta. And after becoming a Jivan Mukta, the question is, do you still need to do Karma Yoga? Right? So this is a question which a lot of people ask. And it's not just at the stage after becoming Jivan Mukta, because obviously after that stage you have no questions. But a lot of students, in my experience, during the process of Shravanam, so many students are at various levels of Chitta Shuddhi, right? Now, the normal thing is that at some point in this Shravanam Maranam process, one begins to feel that doing karma is a waste of time. Okay, that I don't know how many of you have felt. It's a very common thing. At some point, you feel that doing karma is a waste of time. So here, the point here being made is that if you look at verse 17, 18, and this particular verse 21, no 20, verse number 20, we have Krishna has said that there is a process. What is the process? First, you do Karma Yoga. You have to get Chitta Shuddhi. Then Karma Yoga includes Upasana Yoga, which we didn't specifically cover, but it includes. So after getting Chitta Shuddhi, you should come to Jnanam. You should do Shravanam. You should do Maranam. After doing Maranam, your Jnanam, your knowledge should be Samshaya Rahitam, free of any doubts. Once that has happened, then you should do Nididhyasanam. And then once your Nididhyasanam is successfully completed, that is the Jivan Mukti status. So throughout this period, he has been doing Karma Yoga. But the point is, now what? Is Karma Yoga compulsory? Why? Because if I'm going from here to Delhi by train, let us say, Shatabdi Express, that my using, what is the train? That train is the sadhana, the means. What is the sadhyam? Sadhyam is Delhi. So Ahmedabad to Delhi is the journey. The train is the sadhana. My sadhyam, the objective is Delhi. How long do I keep the sadhana? Until the time that I reach Delhi. After that, I leave the train because the train is of no relevance to me after that. So on that analogy, people will say that Karma Yoga is compulsory only until you come to Jnana. Because Karma Yoga has to be Chitta Shuddhi. Once Chitta Shuddhi is done, then why should I have that sadhana at all? Because my sadhyam has been achieved. The sadhyam for Karma Yoga is not moksha, mind you. The sadhyam for Karma Yoga is Chitta Shuddhi. The Chitta Shuddhi is the sadhyam for the sadhana, which is Karma Yoga. Once you got Chitta Shuddhi, then Jnanam is the sadhanam for moksha. Right? Sadhyam is moksha, sadhanam is Jnanam. So as far as a Jnani is concerned, people can say that Karma Yoga is not required. And this is, you remember, Krishna said, Naiva tasya kritenartaha na kriteneha kaschana na chasya sarva bhuteshu kaschidasthavya pashraya. Jnani need not do karma. You read that verse properly. It says Jnani need not. Need not is very important. Need not in the sense does not require karma. Right? Na kriteneha kaschana. He does not need the karma. He does not require the karma. Because of what I am saying, the objective of karma, the sadhyam for karma is Chitta Shuddhi, and the Jnani has already got that. Therefore, it does not require karma. However, a lot of people interpret that to mean Jnani should not be doing karma, which is wrong. Right? So the Jnani need not do karma. It all depends upon its prarabdha. He may sit in a place like Ramana Maharishi and just do no karma at all and just teach, right? Or he can be like Swami Shivananda and be furiously active. Or he can be like Shankara and a very active life also. Or he can be like Tapavan Maharaj, sitting quietly in a cave in the Himalayas without bothering about anything. So Jnani can do any of these things, right? But here, Krishna is telling Arjuna that, Arjuna, even if you are a Jnani, you have to continue your karma. The question is, why should he continue? After all, karma is for Chitta Shuddhi. Chitta Shuddhi is for Jnanam. Jnanam is for liberation, moksha. And moksha the Jnani has already got. Why should he do karma? So why should Jnani do karma is the question over here. And Krishna in the second line is answering. The 20th verse of the second line covers this particular question. Why should a Jnani be required to do karma? Because it's not required at all. Krishna is saying, hey Arjuna, as a Jnani, you do not need any karma. But as long as you are in society, you have to continue to follow karma, do karma, not for your own benefit, but for the benefit of the society. For the sake of the society, you have to do karma. A very, very important teaching, because this is something which all of us will come across during our Vedantic studies. And all of us are grihasthas. We are all role models to our children. We are all looked upon, by people in society also. And therefore, even at any stage in your life, as long as you have not taken sannyasa, as long as you are in society, remember that karma has to be continued, loka sangraham evapi, for the sake of the well-being of the society, for the welfare of the society, we have to do our duties. And this particular statement is based on a very important principle in the scriptural tradition. So in our tradition, there are three sources of knowledge which are generally mentioned, right? Three sources of knowledge for what? These are the indicators, the lingam, to know if I am following the dharmic way of life, the correct way of living. If I am following, I have to compare myself against three parameters. Three sources of knowledge have led on three parameters. The first one is something called Purva Mimamsa Sutras, right? It's by Jaimini. So he says, in fact, that Purva Mimamsa Sutras covers the entire Karma Kanda portion. Okay. In fact, in this Purva Mimamsa Sutras, Jaimini starts by saying Athato Dharma Jignasa. He says, now we are going to analyze what is Dharma, what is the proper way of living. And the entire Karma Kanda is covered by that particular sutras. The entire Vedas the Karma Kanda part of the Vedas, are the primary source of our knowledge. And Veda is, we saw, Apaurusha, it is not from human intellect. So with limited intellect, how can I know? So I look at what is there in the Vedas. So the first parameter, the first indicator, not indicator, the first what they call benchmark which I have to know whether I am living a dharmic life is to look at the teaching of the Karma Kanda and say, am I violating any of those rules? So this is the first source. That is why it's called Shrutihi. It is the revealed by the Lord himself in the form of the Karma Kanda, Purva Veda. An analysis is given in a text called Purva Mimamsa Sutras, the analysis of the Purva Veda. That the author is Jaimini. So that is the first traditional source of trying to understand whether I am living a dharmic life. Then the first source therefore is Shruti. The second source is Smriti. So Smriti, as you all know, by now you know, it means all the secondary literature which is based on the Vedas. And there are many Smritis. So Shruti is the Veda only. Whenever somebody says Shruti, he refers to Veda, which is the primary source. The source which we take it as directly from the Lord, not touched by human hand. The secondary literature is there called Smriti. Smriti literally means that which is remembered. Okay. And this word Smriti is applied for all secondary literature which is based on the Vedas. I'll give you a few things, it's not exhaustive list, obviously, but a few things. There are something called the Veda Angas. So when we study Taittiriya Upanishad, you'll come across these Veda Angas. Veda Angas are, the Anga means the part of the Vedas, Veda Anga. There are 6 of them: Shiksha, Chanda, Vyakarana, Niruktam, Jyotisham, and Kalpa. Okay. So we will not go to them. Some of the names you already know. Vyakarana means grammar. Chanda means how do you, these, how these verses are formed, formation of the verses. Niruktam is etymology. Jyotisha, of course, is astrology. All these things are there. So there are 6 Vedangas. Then there are the Itihasas. What are Itihasas? Mainly 2. Mahabharata, Ramayana. Then there are various Smriti texts. They discuss, they are texts basically on the 4 Purusharthas: Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So there are texts which discuss Dharma, that social duties, morals, responsibilities, etc. So some of them are Manu Smriti, then Yajnavalkya Smriti, Narada Smriti. These are some of the names. So we may not do any of these, but you should know the names at least. At least you should not be blank if the names come up. So these are all Dharma texts. Then there are Artha texts, texts related to Artha. For example, you have the famous Artha Shastra or Chanakya. You have something called Brihaspati Sutra. Then there is some texts based on emotions, love, relationships. So that is Kama. So Dharma, Artha, Artha is over. Kama is the next one. And the major text is Kama Sutra. Then there is Moksha. And there are, and these we are very familiar with. All the Prakarana Granthas which we are studying fall under these texts. So Vivekachudamani, Atma Bodha, Tattva Bodha, all these are there. Then there's a 4th level called Puranas. So you have very many Puranas, Shiva Purana and all those things. Then you have the Kavyas, poetical literature is there. And you have the Bhashyams which are there on the particular Upanishads. On the Bhashyams, you have Tikas, and that goes on. Bhashyam is a commentary, you have sub-commentaries, you have sub-commentaries on the commentaries. There's no end to it, right? Now in today's world, since we're talking about this Dharma Shastra, many of the Dharma Shastra rules have become irrelevant because society is changing. And therefore, Krishna is saying that Krishna understands that Dharma Shastra rules will change. Some of them are absolute, but many of them will change according to time and place and circumstances. And therefore, there should always be people in the society who understand the scriptures properly and who are intelligent enough to be able to interpret the scriptures appropriately according to the time. That's very important. You can interpret Upanishads strictly according to the time in which it is written, which will be meaningless to us, especially Dharma Shastra. Upanishads, of course, is Sanatana. It is basically about the Atma. That is self timeless. So there cannot be too many differences there. But wherever Dharma Shastram is there, rules and regulations for behavior in society, because times change, environment changes, the people who interpret Dharma Shastras should be able to do it properly in accordance with the times. And it is because that has not happened that most of our children, they don't have any value for Dharma Shastram at all. Because people who study, assimilate, interpret are not there. So these people have to understand that scriptures have to be, especially Dharma Shastra, have to be flexible. And therefore, the scripture itself gives the freedom for the human beings, for the Acharyas to interpret according to times. This set of scriptures is called Smriti. So Smritis can always be interpreted more reasonably according to the time frame. So we have Shruti as one, Smriti as one. And the third benchmark is Shishta Acharaha. Shishtas mean cultured people or responsible members of society. Achara is behavior. So Shishta Achara, the way of life which has been followed by responsible members of society, elders basically, elders, cultured people, informed people, they are all Shishtas. Achara means life. So Shishta Achara, the example set by people, by responsible people, that is one way of learning. So we have Dharma Shastra model society, right? Of these are three models, Shruti, Shruti, and Shishtachara. Which is the most powerful? It is always Shishtachara. Because Shruti and Smriti are in written forms and they have to be studied, while Shishtachara is live. They are all live role models and they have got a huge impact on society. So here the next question is, in today's world, who are these Shishtas? Who are these Shrestha people? Right? We all know, for every individual, for every child, who is the first Shishta? It is the mother. The mother influences the child maximum. And some people even say that even right from pregnancy, the mother's thoughts and feelings, they influence the child. And therefore the child figures out, even while in the womb, whether it is welcome in the world or not. Right? Now, there's one Upanishad which is called the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which we will do in due course. It says a man is considered to be a mature human being. A human being is considered to be a mature person only if he has gone through three relationships. So one is with the mother, Matra Sambandha, proper Matra Sambandha. The next is with the father, Pitra Sambandha. And the third is with the Acharya, Acharya Sambandha. So unless a living being has gone through, human being obviously, has gone through these three relationships, mother, father, and Acharya, in that order. Mother is first, father is next, Acharya is third. He will not be mature human being. So in the old days, who are the examples? The kings were the examples. And that's why he said Janaka Adayaha. Janaka is an example of a person who was living a very responsible, very good life, I think a very good role example. Nowadays, of course, kings have been replaced by politicians, and you can't really take a politician as a role model. Shishtachara is definitely not there. Today's models are what? Cricketers and cinema stars who wear torn jeans and buttonless shirts. Okay. What is the problem here? In society, if society is unable to provide a reasonable role model to the children or to the people, everybody will worship everybody will take a role model as whoever is available, right? Which can be very undesirable role models. And that is what is happening in today's world. And therefore, here we have to say that the mother has to be responsible, the father has to be responsible, the teacher has to be very responsible in his behavior, not only in the teaching, in the way he lives his life. Okay. Why? Because it is very easy for us to follow wrong things in life, wrong models in life. It is very easy, first of all, follow. For example, whenever we say Vishwamitra, what is the first thing that comes to the mind?
That Menaka.
Menaka, right? So the idea is that Vishwamitra is a role model not in the Menaka side. Vishwamitra ran away with Menaka, she seduced him, all those things are there. That is not the role model aspect. Vishwamitra is the one who is associated with the Gayatri mantra, but that nobody remembers, right? So it's easy for us to follow the wrong thing always. And we are just waiting to follow the wrong thing. That's why he says, hey Arjuna, you have to be a responsible person. And therefore, he wants to emphasize that Shrestha Achara, that Shishta Achara, the role of the responsible person in society. He wants to emphasize. That is why he adds this line, Loka Sangrahamevapi Sampashya Kartum Arhasi. So with this, we will actually the next verse is a verse which is a follow-up of this verse. And if you have some time, we can follow that. The 8 minutes are left, but it will take more than 8 minutes. It's up to you guys.
We can do Acharya.
Everybody is okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
So let us stand the 21st verse then. Please unmute yourself and we will chat. Yad yadacharati shreshtaha
Yad
Acharya Shrestha
tattad devetaro janaha
Devetaro Janaha
sayat pramanam kurute
Pramanam Kurute
lokastadanu vartate.
Lokastadanu Vartate.
Okay. So now look at the grammar part. So yad yat. So yat acharati. That word has to be broken. Yat acharati shreshtaha. Then tat eva itaraha janaha. Yat acharati shreshtaha. Tat eva itaraha janaha. Saha yat pramanam kurute lokaha tat anuvartate. Yat shreshtaha acharati manvaya. Yat shreshtaha acharati tat eva itaraha janaha. You can supply in brackets acharati. Full stop. Yat pramanam saha kurute tat lokaha anuvartate. So yat shreshtaha acharati. Yat in whichever manner shreshtaha, the role model, the important person in society, acharati, behaves or does. Tat eva, that in that manner alone, itaraha janaha acharati. In that manner alone, itaraha means other, janaha is people. So whichever, in whatever way the shreshtaha, the role models in society behave, in that way alone, other people will also behave. So this is a commentary on the second line where Krishna said, of the previous verse, where Krishna told Arjuna that, Arjuna, you have to act. Even if you're a Nyani, you have to act for the benefit of society. Right? Because Nyani is a Shrestha, is the person whom people look upon. And therefore, if a Nyani does not do karma, what will happen is people will take it as it is okay not to do karma. Right? And therefore he says, Yat saha kurute, in whichever saha kurute pramanam. So pramanam here can be taken as the benchmark or the way in which he acts. So, Yat saha kurute pramanam, whatever that person sets out, kurute, shows as the proper way of life. So pramanam here can be taken as proper way of life. So yat saha kurute pramanam. In whichever way that person, the role model, sets it out as a proper way of life, lokaha tat anuvartate. People will follow that only. So pramanam here can be taken as standard. Whatever this saha here refers to the Nyani or the role model. So whichever action that role model performs, that action is set out as the standard of performance. And therefore, everybody will perform that kind of action only. So this is the reason, hey Arjuna, why you should, even if you are a jnani, why you should keep on doing karma. So Shreshtaha yat yat acharati, wherever, whatever this model does, itaraha janaha tata eva acharati. Other people will also follow the same thing. Why? Because saha yat pramanam kurute. Whatever standards that role model sets out in the house, it can be in the society, it can be the nation. So he says, whoever has the power to set out, influence others, that is what is meant by Shreshtaha. Whoever has the power to influence others by his behavior, such a person has a duty for loka sangraham, has a duty to do things for the benefit of society. And Shreshta, as I said before, at different levels, they can have different Shreshtas. So in the family, it can be mother, it can be father, it can be elder siblings, it can be the Acharyas. And as I said, we have, unfortunately, in today's world, we have high profile film actors, media favorites, all these people. Krishna says that better than preaching is to follow what you teach. Don't just teach, to follow what you teach. So if you are following what you are teaching, that is the standard set out by you. And so there is a definition for Acharya. You know, it's a very interesting definition. Acharati, acharayati. Two words are there. Acharati, acharayati, iti Acharya. So the one, acharati, who teaches. And acharayati, the one who follows what he teaches himself. Iti Acharya. That person is an Acharya. And therefore, we have three words which we should consistently keep in our mind, because remember that all levels, all of us are role models for somebody or the other, right? You cannot say that I influence nobody. So all of us have some level of influence over somebody, and therefore the three standards to be followed. Vichara. Vichara means speaking. I mean thinking. So vichara means think carefully before you speak. So vichara. Then achara. Observe your actions. Why? Vichara, achara, prachara. So prachara is the teaching which you do. That teaching has to be implemented through two modes. One is carefully think before you speak, and one is carefully ensure that what you have spoken, those are reflected in your actions. So prachara is defined as vichara achara, the person who is able to follow